Alright, so I'm going to start from Richard and go from there all the way to now. So, as you guys should already know, hold on. Richard was the original successor. I appointed him. He was in command. He led for like a year, led war to Octavia, and then eventually betrayed me. Hence the event known to all the Richterians and other people, I guess. It's known as the Great Destruction. So I had to come on Discord and say, hey, this shit just happened. You all guys all hate each other, and some even hate me. I don't give a shit. Let's all unite under a community group called the Vibe Tribe and just chill and play video games. Then I said that I don't care about Richterism or the Richterian legacy or the Richterian dynasty in general. I said, you guys want to continue that, go ahead. I'm not going to judge you, but it's done nothing but split us apart. And eventually they said, yeah, we want to keep doing the Richter thing. I did a Minecraft thing, I did a Gmod thing, and they were like, yeah, we want to do Roblox. And so, as you all also know, there were 20 splinter groups that formed, all fighting each other, forming these splinter groups, and blah, 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 blah. In all that crisis, I DM Ethan and said, hey, Ethan, you know, you should continue the legacy as the next successor and lead the people. And he's like, yeah, I'll do that. And we had like a private ceremony in DMs where I like appointed him like de facto successor and said, go on and lead them and whatever else. So, Ethan appointed also Richterian to gather all the Richterians, and they all met, and they decided the Richterian dynasty would be led as a consul, and they would do a group called Octavia, which would be just like my Octavia, except they were using like they were using Alamande instead of like Paris and shit, and they did that, and they had a consul. And the consul would lead everything, and they would appoint a leader every like year or something. And so they all appointed Ethan, obviously. He was like the grand chairman or something like that. And the consul had like 6 or 7 people, and they would run the dynasty. Arx came out from retirement after Richard did his thing, and I kind of convinced him to as well. And he was like, hey, you know, I want to win this consul. I was Alec's friend for 6 years. You know, I'm one of his most loyal men. You know, I'm a great loyalist of his. And they're like, okay. They made him a consulman. And then Arx eventually, like a week later, just said, hey, you know, Ethan, you're kind of inactive, you're kind of a weak leader, no offense, and I want to take a man because I'm more active, I'm Alec's friend for 6 years, I've known him alongside everyone else here, blah, 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 blah. And Ethan's like, alright, I'll make you the leader, and Alex is like, okay, I'll make you the second command, and after this happened, Arx disbands this idea of like a democratic council and says, I'm the emperor now, I'm the leader of this crap. All of you are my followers. If you are not loyal to me, you're going to get out. He basically ran it like I did, and I said, this is fine. I said, this is how it should be ran. You'll get more shit done. You know, I kind of support this. I said, you know, I appointed Ethan originally, but like, it's whatever. I care less. I'm retired. We're all playing Minecraft, we're playing Gmod, we're playing other video games. We could care less about this, you know, Lego drama. While this is going on, Bug was told he would be the next successor after Ethan. And so Bug, on the other hand, and I know he's like a giant meme, he's like the retard known to most people, the retard of the Richterians, and his grandfather's Rudolph Hess, and blah blah blah. But if you actually have met Bug, like Bug now, not Bug like 3 years ago, but Bug now, he's actually kind of a smart guy, he's a good guy, really good guy, and he's no longer edgy. I know he's no longer like a LARPer, he's more like tame about it, you know, he's more optical, I guess, now. But at the time, Bug was like, hey, you know, this is kind of like bullshit, but I've known Arx for a long time as my friend, I don't really care. I'm going to go out and do this thing called GRC with Coyote. And as you guys know, Coyote was like a major group owner back in the day. He owned TNGE, which garnered like 50,000 members and had like 100 people in game for like months on end. And then he made Gucci, which had the same activity. It was like the largest, most active clothing group in all of Roblox. It's such a he won like Blacksea Awards for this shit. Like, he was a big time like Viking Law equivalent back in the day. And then eventually got betrayed by the LGBTQ community, and they betrayed him. Then he became like, super anti-gay and super based and red-pilled. And then he met me, and I basically like groomed him to be like this based red-pilled like Aryan warrior. Just kidding, by the way. Just kidding. But so Bug and I talk about GRC, and I'm like, hey, this should be like a Weimar Republic. I give him all these great ideas, and Logan's like, yeah, that's his name, by the way. I mean, Coyote, Logan, Walter. I'll just call him Logan from now on. Logan is like, yeah, this is a great idea. You know, I can make millions off of this, and I could get 100 people in game. The Richterians could run this, and they could be like the Richterian dynasty, and they could like command all of this, or like the Hohenzollerns of the Weimar Republic, whatever. And so they come in, and ARX realizes that Bug is like the emperor of this GRC group, and so he also realizes that Bug leads his own party called the Monarchist Party, or the Kaiser Party, or something like that. And so ARX makes this big fuss about it and says like, hey, you know, I'm the emperor, I'm the leader here, you're not the leader, and you're making this huge group without me, and it's like it's not fair, I should be the leader. And while this is going on, I'm out getting a Christmas tree for the family. And I'm a family, I'm seeing Christmas carols, I'm being, you know, I'm out there being a white man, cutting the trees down and whatnot for the family, and this is all going on. So I get home, and I hear that Bug woke up and was like, no, I'm not giving you the groups, I'm not giving you the role, you know, this was my idea, and Alexander himself said that I could do this with Coyote, and, you know, blah, blah, blah. And so Ark says to me, he's like, hey, you know, I should be able to exile Bug, I should be able to, like, you know, do something about this, like, you need to tell Bug. And I'm like, well, listen, man, I'm like, you know, I said I'd be an advisor for you guys, and I'd help you guys out, but, like, you know, Bug's right. Bug made this group. He, you know, this was his idea alongside me and Coyote, and you can't just force him to give the group over because I said, this is not fair. I said, if this was back in the day and Bug was doing this, I wouldn't do it either because it's his group. It's somebody in the group, and it was going really well, and they were like a good leader for it, and they were if they're very seriously being credit, they're being loyal. I said, I let them do it. I said, so what you're doing is not optical, it's not fair, and it's just unrealistic. So, you know, of course, Arx doesn't care. He's like, well, you know, whatever, you know, you're not on my side. I'm gonna, you know, I'm like, all right. I'm like, listen, Arx, if Bug goes against you, he's just loyal, just exile him from the dynasty. I said, you don't have, I'm not saying you can't exile him or do anything. This is your dynasty. I'm like, this is your dynasty. And I was like, you want to exile Bug, then exile him. But I'm just giving you my point of view that getting rid of him for this is not going to do well. I said what you should do is wait it out months and eventually get rid of him, or eventually ask for the group, or eventually do your thing. Doing it right now when you've just joined the group and you just got in the dynasty like, what, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, it's not good. He didn't listen. He exiles Bug, he forms his own party. He admin abuses Bug's party, which starts a whole new civil war. So Bug goes like Hitler mode and starts like raging and telling him how he's going to destroy them, and hence begins the Richterian civil war as predicted in Revelations, which would happen in the next year, which did happen by 2022. Yeah, so this happens, and Bug is like leading what they were known as the ALECZAENDER'S. They are now known as the XANDERists because they thought it was too big of a name. And then ARX calls himself a Richterist, as do some of his followers, but they're referred to by most people outside of his Richterians as the ALECZAENDER'S. They're referred to as the ALECZAENDER'S for two reasons. First of all, the ALECZAENDER family was a family that ARX was in before he joined the Richterians, and the second reason is because in the Richterian name, you notice that there's DEXILIUM, ARXILLIUM, NIXILIUM, this Zillium, this Ilium, that Ilium. They have Ilium in between their name and Richterian to indicate their loyalty to ARXILLIUM. It's like a thing they did to like indicate who's like loyal to him and who's loyal to like everyone else that isn't ARXILLIUM. So they're referred to as the Iliumists because ARX, what he wants to do is change the doctrines and whatnot. I'll get into that later, but at this moment in time, ARX and I were arguing all the time, at least every other day, because he was saying that I haven't been being loyal to him, that I've been betraying him, that the fact that I like support Bug, and I'm like, listen, dude, I'm like, Bug was planned to be the next successor or the successor of the successor after Richard, and I said I had plans with him. I've been training him. I've been spending years fixing his reputation, fixing who he is, and you just came over here and destroyed all of that, or you're trying to destroy all of that work. I said the shit about him being a Nazi is outdated and obsolete. He hasn't been like that in years. And you're out here perpetrating these slanderous rumors because you're afraid of him. And he's like, oh, I'm not afraid of Bug, blah, blah, blah. But back in the day, they were afraid of Bug. They were afraid of me, especially. And that's why ARX has since then drifted away from the doctrines and did his own thing. But it was like this for months. Eventually, Coyote got involved and said, hey, this is ridiculous. He's like, how do we control ARXILLIUM? And I'm like, well, Arx said if we don't choose him over Bilg, he's going to, like, you know, basically either be neutral in regards to my legacy, or he's going to be against it. He didn't say that he's going to be against it, but I said I feel like he's going to be against it if we don't choose him over Bug. And so eventually we did this like mock court case, and we like pretended to DDoS the game and blamed it on Bug and said, hey, you know, Arx will make you the Emperor and Bug will be the Archduke. Well, we did this, and Arx was still causing us issues. He was demanding that plans change. We had all these plans out for GRC, and Arx just kept on demanding we do this, we do that, we change this, we change that. And I'm like, dude, like they had plans with this group, and they want to go forward with it, and you're being an asshole about it and trying to like get your shit forward because you apparently are being selfish and don't like this and that. And I'm like, Arx, what groups have you led? You haven't led any groups, and you're telling this group owner who's been leading groups successfully every time he makes a group, successfully every time, to do these plans. And I'm like, you're literally his like second in command, and you're ruining the project. You're doing this, you're doing that. And Arx is like, well, you know, it was just a big argument every time once again. And so Hadi was eventually, we got rid of this guy, we can't control him, he wants to be his own thing, and he's egotistical, and he's paranoid, and, you know, no one can control this guy. This guy's just let on the loose. And I'm like, yeah. And so eventually, we don't exile him. He eventually just leaves. We eventually do this VC, and we eventually talk to him again, and eventually it just got to the point where it's like, this guy is just uncontrollable. So we brought in the Richterian dynasty. We did a public VC. We basically debated him and talked him down about what he was doing in front of everyone and tried to make the point like, hey, you're in the wrong here. Everyone else agrees with us. And he leaves the GRC. He's like, all right, well, you know what? If you're going to go against me and embarrass me in front of all of my members, we're just going to leave. And, I mean, it kind of worked. Because at that point in time, there were a number of people that were like, hey, you know, this Arx guy is actually, you know, acting a little sus here. You know, why is he going against the founder? Why is he, like, not taking his advice? Why is he abandoning GRC, the only group in 2021 to 2022 that will basically, you know, lead the dynasty to greatness? And so the people started beginning to question him, and that's when groups like the Monkey Crew, and he had like the former Richterists and a few other small groups slowly leaning towards Bug. Eventually, Arx does some other groups. As an SCPF, he does a few other groups besides the SCPF, and these groups are active for like a week and then they die. And so Arx eventually comes to me and says, hey, you know, you're right. I should listen to you. You should, I should take your advice. What do we do? And I said, well, right now, everyone is feeling nostalgic. These projects you're doing right now, people don't like SCPF. People don't like these groups because they're not Richterian. These are just random ass groups you're coming up with that aren't even original. You're literally taking maps from other groups, putting them on as your own map, and then calling it a group. That's all you're doing. It's not even development. You're just slapping on. You're just control V spamming like an ape on a keyboard. You have to actually make a game like I did. You have to actually get assets like I did. You have to actually make uniforms like I did. And he's like, well, we don't have developers. We don't have all the money for development of all this stuff. He's like, what do we do? And I'm like, well, I said, listen, I know how to make uniforms. I know how to edit uniforms in the studio. I can handle the uniforms. You handle the game, and just do Korea. I said, just use Korea as the main group. Do Korea for the 1000th time, and just make it original. Don't reuse anything. I will handle the uniforms. You handle the map. And so he did. We were able to find a map that Lewis was working on in Korea, so we didn't steal it. Lewis had a map in Korea that was like 90% done that we edited, and then he fixed up and he turned it into Pyongyang. And I worked on the uniforms for like 2 weeks, and then I eventually proposed them. And they said, you know, it was like a yes and no. It was like, yeah, these are good, but we missed the old ones, so I had to like reuse the old hats and the old helmets, get those together, repropose it to the console, and they were like, yeah, we could use this. And I'm like, great. And at that point, it was kind of weird because it was like, you know, why are these guys not trusting my judgment? It's like I've been doing this for 6 years, and every time I did this, everyone loved the aesthetic. In fact, the new uniforms that I made, everyone loved it. The people loved it. And the higher-ups were like, yeah, like, we want the old stuff. I'm like, bruh, you know, like, okay, whatever. I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to complain here. I'm just an advisor. I'm just a guy trying to help out Arx, you know, whatever. We do this, and Korea goes well for a few weeks. Eventually, there's a civil war between the party and the army. Arx takes my advice, basically, and it's going well. And then eventually the party's having issues. And so I'm like, just exile the chairman. They don't exile the chairman. 1 week later, the chairman is still in power. Eventually what happens is there's a little labor union that takes place in the group. And so TLDR, the party falls apart and goes into full-on civil war. Eventually, they finally purge not just the chairman, but the entire party and say, okay, party is purged, and then they log off. And it's like, bro, you have to replace the party with new people that are actually active and competent, and the people that were going to do that, you just exiled. And they're like, oh, well, you know, they were part of the union and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you guys are retarded. The union was actually right. The union was actually active, and you just exiled them when they were actually, like, doing their shit. They were the only, they literally had doctrines, they had trainings, and then this guy tells me this. He's like, oh, well, you know, they're excelling alts. They think that there's like bug or something on alts. They're trying to like take over the group. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And so apparently what was going on is that there were a bunch of new members that joined the group that accounts were like less than a year old, less than 2 years old. And they thought that there was an attack from bug or from an enemy that was like spamming alts to take over the group. I did my own research. And what it actually was is that they were running ads, right? And when you run ads, not every member that joins is going to be like a veteran of Roblox. You know what I mean? And so what was going on is that new members were joining the groups that looked slightly like new, because they were, and then they were like putting them on a list of alts and banning them. So the actual active members of the party in the group that were actually doing shit and being active, they were exiled because they thought they were all alts of like some like conspiracy. I did more research, and I actually I haven't revealed this since. That's the first time I'm revealing this. I spoke to Spooky, who was like a good friend of mine, really good friend of mine, and I said, hey, you're on the council, you're in these circles. What is actually going on? Because this is kind of sus. He told me that because of what I did on Hadrian and Desert Fox and numerous other alts back in my time in Roblox, ARXILLIUM is paranoid that I was infiltrating the group on multiple alts, trying to retake not just Korea, but the dynasty from him, and that I was planning like a plot to like return and like overthrow him and return the Richterism. And that Dex was responsible for going out and banning every single alt account that they thought was either me or someone working with me to try and subvert the dynasty or take it over. And for some really weird reason, all the people doing all the work were the people suspected of being me and suspected of that were also very like new accounts suspected of being me and suspected of trying to do this. Eventually, they found out that it wasn't me, that it was actually the monkey crew on a bunch of alts, and that they weren't trying to subvert the group, that they were trying to like be active to try and like help run the group. But regardless, after I found this out, I talked to ARX, and I'm like, ARX, like, come on, man, what is going on here? Like, what is with this alt conspiracy? What is all of this shit? And he's like, oh, well, you know, it's just kind of sus, like, you're still around, and, you know, you're still, like, taking a small part in the group and helping out with the decisions, and, you know, it's like, you know, you're sending screenshots, and you're sending photos and the channels, and people are using them and putting them as their PFPs. Like, I don't know, man, like, you know, I think you're probably, you know, on an alt, you know, still around. You think I'm really good to believe that you're retired now? And I'm like, dude, like, how am I getting the time to log on every single day for 7 hours a day in the middle of freaking winter and spring, in the middle of my winter semester of college? I'm literally like in Lansing at this point, working like, what am I doing? Am I in like the freaking state office on a laptop, you know, playing Roblox and like taking phone calls? Like, and I'm working out, and I'm going to church and hanging with my friends. Like, it was like the most bizarre thing. Like, where am I thinking of the time to log in on like 5 alt accounts and do all of this shit? It was like the most bizarre thing ever. And I'm like, I mean, I think it's hilarious, ARX, but if you want to think that, I mean, think that up. I mean, ban every member that joins a group that is under a year, 2 years old, and has less than 5 friends and has like no Robux in their account. I mean, you want to do that, man? It's your group. But I said it's just weird. As people are literally coming to me and saying that you're paranoid and you're being hysterical. People are laughing at you and what you're doing. And people were literally coming to me saying, that were in those circles saying, like, this is literally ridiculous. Like, what is wrong with ARX? You know, like, why is he paranoid that I'm like haunting him, that I'm like in the walls? Like, he went full schizo mode, thinking that I'm on alts trying to, you know, take over the group. Like, it's like Hadrian and all that was the past. That was years ago. And the fact that he's still paranoid, that he's still talking about this, that was the first red flag. So eventually Korea dies, and I'm like, listen, ARX, okay, here's what we need to do. I give him like 10 ideas, and he's like, oh, well, we're just going to create another group. We're going to do the First Order. And I'm like, but bruh, you just spent 50,000 Robux, maybe more on Korea, and you're going to shut Korea down and do the First Order. He's like, yeah, we want to do Star Wars. It's like, no, ARX, you want to do Star Wars. They want to do Korea, and Korea died because you failed to maintain it, and you failed to lead it properly. You killed it, and you're blaming them, and then you're making a new group that you want to do that no one else likes. And I'm like, this group's going to die, you're going to regret it. Well, I'll be damned, the First Order died, because it didn't even launch, it didn't even go anywhere. He made the group, it got like 13 members, and then like a month later, it's like, oh yeah, it's not going anywhere, this group shut down, obviously. Like, he literally said in the announcement, this group obviously died, and if you expect it to go anywhere, you were like retarded, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, yeah, well, no one's supposed to go anywhere, so you're the retard here. But, he does the First Order. He does another group before, he finally comes to me and says, hey, finally says, okay, you're right. One of my ideas was to join a big empire like Backle or like anyone else, and then just become a high rank in just freaking leech. Leech is a term we use for when we don't have money, we don't have the resources to run an actual group, and just leech off of other groups. I told him to do this with Backle. Because Backle is willing to give ARX command over legions and the Senate and the government and development, and to give them all this power. And there were other groups, like, Kali did the same thing with ARX. Kali literally said to ARX, if he wanted to recruit his own Richterian loyalists that were, like, indoctrinated and whatever, he could in his own group. He gave ARX this ability, which is why I'm so pissed off that ARX just said, yeah, well, whatever, it's not going to go anywhere. Like, this guy has millions of Robux and is willing to launch a group that will get 100 people in game and will let you recruit all of them into the dynasty, which will give you a super power majority. And you literally just say to him, oh no, you know what, I'm just going to go, like, leave because you won't give me Emperor. Like, well, bruh, like, I don't know how stupid you've got to be to reject an offer like that. You've got to be retarded to do something like that. And it's because his ego is so up his ass that he has no common sense at all. Anyways, he does Rome, takes my advice, he joins Rome. He's in it for like a month and a half. And it's going well, blah, 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 but it's not going too well. A lot of people don't like Rome because they want to do World War II stuff, and so eventually, I talked to Logan a second time, and Logan's doing a new project, and he's like, listen, the reason why GRC fails is because ARX destroyed everything. He was the one giving us the manpower. He was the one calling the shots. He was saying, what we should do. We took his advice. The advice didn't go anywhere. This time we're doing Germania, and we're not going to have his advice. We're not going to have anyone come in here and change the structure. He's like, because obviously whenever that happens, the group goes nowhere. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. And I'm like, well, here's what I'll do. I'll talk to ARX. I'll tell him all this stuff. And I'm like, he has an ego, so if I tell him, he screwed it up, he won't listen, he won't join, whatever. But I'll try to talk to him. I'll try to get him involved in this because right now he's in this Rome thing, and Rome isn't working too well, and blah 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 blah. And and Logan was willing to pay the Richterian staff USD if they worked for him. He was willing to pay scripters. He was willing to pay uniform developers, GFX developers. He was willing to pay hundreds in USD for people to go in his group and be generals, right? So it would have been not only a great opportunity for people to go in there to recruit for the Richterians and be like a Richter superpower, but they were also paying people USD to go in there and just play the game. Yeah. And ARX, what does ARX do? What does ARX do? When people start joining and they're getting like paid USD to do this shit, ARX says, oh my god, we gotta blacklist this group. Holy shit, they're recruiting our members. Oh my, it's like, oh my gosh, you dumb, stupid nignog. Like, you have got to be freaking kidding me. You are given the best opportunity in the past 1 year of your leadership, and you freaking not only decline it, but you blacklist the group. Like, ARX didn't even have to join the group. Cardi said literally that if I freaking wanted to, I couldn't, I'm retired, but if, anyone else could join the group and do it themselves. He said he could, elect someone to do it for him. It's like every opportunity that ARX has been given to do anything good, he has declined and thrown it out the window, and said, no, we must preserve the doctrine and Richterism. We must preserve, our people. It's like, You can if you join the group and like I don't know, take it over with the ideology. Like, have you ever heard of like I don't know, leeching off of a group or like infiltrating it and putting all of our ideas in the group's head? Like I don't know, man. Um, Eventually it just gets absurd. Kali's like, I'm giving this guy a month max. If this guy doesn't come to me in a month, he's never getting an opportunity again. It's going to be a Manzotti group. I'm going to do the same thing the Richterians do. He basically said that if ARXILLIUM doesn't do this himself, that Coyote himself is going to just turn the Manzottis into the next Richterians and just recruit like hell for his dynasty and form like a whole, like, the same thing I used to do, he's going to do. That's basically what he said. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll talk to ARX, I'll schedule a meeting, we'll talk to him, and we'll get this figured out. So I schedule a 3-hour call with ARX. We're going in there, we're calling, we're doing all these things, and we're going on for hours and hours and hours. And keep in mind that while this is all going on, I have at least like a dozen, 2 dozen, 3 dozen Richterians that were DMing me saying that they wanted to join Germania, that they wanted to join an alt, they wanted to join, and some of them were wishy-washy. Like, I won't lie, some of them were like kind of sus, they were kind of acting like weird about it and whatnot, but almost all of them were expressing that they wanted to join and that they wanted to take part and that they didn't like what Arx was doing and that they disagreed with him and that he was being an idiot. And so I'm like, well, this is like half of the bloodline. This is like almost half of the bloodline. This is like most of the inner and outer core. We gotta fix this. While this is all going on, I'm getting removed from the inner core. Draenor gets removed from the inner core. A bunch of people get removed from the outer core, and they get replaced with people like, what's this guy's name? Pharaoh-Ilium and Gingi-Ilium, and like all these Iliums start getting put into the inner and outer core. And I'm like, who the hell are these guys? Well, apparently what Arx was doing was Arx was going to hold a vote onto whether to blacklist or unblacklist Germania. So before he holds his vote, and I had no idea what was going to happen, he tells me at the end of this meeting that we're going to vote. He also said that the people don't want Germania, and that the people don't like me, and that I've been betrayed by them, and that all this other bullshit, and about how they're lying to me, and how everyone is against me, and that he's right and I'm wrong, and how I'm basically nothing, and all this other garbage. What's funny about it is that in the same meeting, he's saying that he wants you to come back to take control of the dynasty, and that the people want me back. He's like contradicting himself in this meeting. He's saying, at one point, he's saying he wants me back. He wants to take over control and everything. And on the other end, he's saying that no one wants me to like do anything, and I just want to join Germania, and I just want to do what I want to tell them to do. And it's like, which one is it? It's like you can't do both. You can't reject my advice and then say want me to come back. It's either you want my advice and you want me to come back, or you don't want my advice and you don't want me to come back. It can't be like this weird, like, how does one reject advice from someone that you want to come back? Like, I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but that's a little weird and a little manipulative in my opinion, but that's what he was saying to me in this call. But eventually at the end of the call, he says, okay, we're going to move on the inner and outer core, and if both cores vote to join Germania, then I will unblacklist it. So I talked to my guys in the inner and outer core, and they all vote yes. I have screenshots of the vote originally being like 5-2 in like the inner core, and like 4-2 or 4-3 in the outer core. So Ark starts freaking out, calls for a VC in the inner core, and the guy's like, hey, we're going to join this VC, we'll be right back. And I said, promise me before you leave that you're not going to change your vote. And they all said yes. I recorded it too, by the way, in case they lied to me, which unfortunately they did. They joined the VC. I had a guy also record the VC with ARX, and ARX is in there saying like, hey, you guys are bipolar, you guys are schizophrenic and whatnot, you guys are like retarded, like why would you join Germania? And he was like basically threatening them, saying that if they didn't basically go against the vote and side with him, that they was just insulting him. He didn't say he was going to exile them, but he was insulting them, saying like you're retarded, you're this, you're that, you're this. And so they were like, and saying to me like, hey, it's like this guy's going to he's going to remove us. You look at Dragunov, look at Ultra, look at Xavier's, look at all these people that got removed from the GCs. Like, we're going to end up just like them if we don't side with his vote. And I'm like, you know what? I think he's trying to like manipulate you guys, but whatever. So eventually, the vote goes from like 6 to like 2 or whatever to like 1 to like 7. ARC takes a screenshot and says, no one voted yes. And I'm like, really? I'm like, at any point in time did anyone vote yes? He said no. So he lied to me because I had a screenshot of it being like 7 to 3, right? And he says to me, no, it was 1 to 7 the whole time. They're all talking shit. They're all laughing at you. They all hate you and disrespect you and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, really? And in the recording, there was one guy that was, Alois was the guy that was wishy-washy. He's the guy that go to my DMs and be like, oh, I respect you. I'm loyal to you. You know, we're Christians. We're big Christians. I love God. I love running. I love all these things. I love your legacy. And then you go to ARX, he'd be like, I just respect Alexander. I have lost respect for him. I hate Alexander. I want to ban him. I want this. I want to do this. It's like, what the frick? Like, talk about crazy. Talk about lunacy. You got this guy who's like total bipolar mode. And in the outer court, it was the same thing with like this guy named Will and Xavier's. They were the same exact way. They'd go in my DMs, and sometimes they were honest. Sometimes they'd actually criticize me, like, hey, you're with a Nazi. What are you doing? And it's like I had to debate them. They'd be like, oh, yeah, you're right. He's not a Nazi. You're right. And then they go in the outer court, and they would like say the same shit. They'd be, oh, Buck's not a Nazi, and then they'd say he is, and they'd be, oh yeah, Buck's a Nazi. You're right. And so they would go total bipolar mode, total schizo mode, and do the same thing to me. And it was like, what the frick? Well, you guys are my friends. It's like you guys are literally siding with this Roblox leader over honesty. I mean, I didn't even care at that point about the vote. I spoke to Alois and another GC that I recorded with ARX and a few others because I said, listen, I want to do a GC with me, ARX, and all of you guys, and I want to see who you guys choose because I'm just curious. So we did this GC with VC, and I tell Alois, we're talking. I forget what it was over, but apparently he like lied about something, and I called him unchristian for it. And Alois is like, I'm not a Christian. I'm not a Christian. What do you mean I'm not a Christian? I'm like, I didn't say you weren't a Christian. I said, you're being unchristian. I said, you're lying. You're going behind my back. I said, the only thing I expected from you people, ever since I've returned to this platform and came back on Discord to play games with you people off the platform, was to be my friend. And you have failed to do that. I don't even want you guys to be like these unconditional loyalists anymore. I just want you guys to be good friends of mine that will just be supportive and friendly and honorable and respectful. And I mean, at least loyal to a degree that is Christian. You don't have to support my every move and idea, but going behind my back and lying and talking shit about me and then coming to me and saying all these good things about me in front of my face is the most unchristian, dishonorable thing, scummy thing you could have done. And the same thing about the vote. As you guys said that you would vote yes, and you promised me you'd vote yes, and then you go over there, and then you vote no. And I said, I get it. You don't want to get exiled. You're afraid. You all care about your ranks. You're basically being pussies at this point about your Lego ranks over friendship. But this is dishonorable. This is disgusting. This is literally, this is the worst thing you guys could have done to me. And this is where it all just began. From here on out, it was just a shit show. I get my admin perms removed from the Richterian network. People start using the inner and outer core to talk shit about me. People start joining Germania on alts, and they're joining it by the dozens, and they're leaving ARX. Eventually, this whole Richterian Civil War thing starts to take shape. And people are saying how ARX has gone against the values. Eventually, ARX is saying that we need to replace the doctrine and the legacy with the new doctrine. Well, not ARX, sorry, that's a lie. ARXILLIUM was saying that we need a new constitution, new doctrine, to replace the Richterian doctrine. And ARX was saying, he was kind of agreeing, he was kind of like in the middle, but he was kind of leaning towards it, saying stuff like, yeah, like, the constitution is obsolete, Richterism is obsolete, we're a community now, we need to have like a more like optical approach to things, and blah, 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 blah. And I mean, that was all bullshit. ARX plays this game where he says that he's chill, that everything is chill and relaxed, everything is fine, and that he just wants to play video games. The reality of the matter is that the Richterians have become more toxic, more subversive, more degenerative than it had ever dreamed of. It has literally, in the full definition of the term dark Richterism, it has become dark. It has literally become what it has sworn to destroy. Not even Richard was this dark. Not even Richard wanted to use DDOSing and doxing as a form of oppression towards those who betrayed him. ARXILLIUM is the only Richterian, the only leader in the Richterian legacy, to have utilized these methods of destruction against his enemies. And so slowly but surely, They start doing this. They start bringing out the botnets. They start bringing out the DDoSing. They're threatening Germania. They're threatening everyone, saying that if they launch, if they even do better than ARX, even if they're neutral, even if they don't care about the Richterian dynasty, they're trying to make a group. If they do better than ARX, he's going to DDoS them. He's going to exploit them. He's going to destroy them and make sure they never are active. They never have a group ever again. That's what he starts saying. And this culture of DDoSing and toxicity becomes normalized. Now, at this point in time, I'm just saying, like, this is toxic, this is not good, but, you know, I don't really care, you know, this is ARX's legacy, and if he's gonna go down this route, like, you know, what am I gonna do about it? I can't do anything about it, you know, it's like, this is becoming a Cold War where people are now using DDoSing like they're nuclear bombs, you know, oh, if you DDoS, excuse me, if you DDoS me, I'm gonna DDoS you. This sort of behavior has become normalized, and it has destroyed the platform, because now, whenever two big groups become active and they have a botnet and they threaten each other, they're going to need us. They're not going to fight with raids and guns and actual wars. They're going to fight with a botnet, and it's going to destroy both groups. So, ARX has this to his advantage, whatever. ARX also eventually just starts threatening people. He starts interrogating people in GCs and stuff, and starts saying how they're either with me or with him, and how I betrayed him, and how... Oh, and he also said that I would, like, call him a retard in the meeting, and I went, like, full out, like, wild banshee mode on him, and like, went off on him and stuff, and that's also not true. Also, I recorded all 3 hours of that VC. So, if he continues to lie about me, I can just release the entire recording of that entire VC so everyone can see who he really is. Because the person who was calling me a retard, who was actually insulting me and going off on me and saying how he has all this DDoSing power and how I have no one and everything else, was him. I raised my voice at least once for like 5 minutes, and it wasn't even like a screaming, raising voice. It was like a slight raising voice about how, you know, how he's so stubborn and how he's so hellbent on like not listening to me and opposing me and shit. But he has all these lies he said about me. He said that I used to dox people, that I used to like go on doxing sprees, and I'm like, all right. I'm like, if I dox anyone, tell me in DMs the full names of all the people you said that I doxed. I want their address. I want all the information that I apparently doxed about them. And he's like, oh, I don't have information. I don't record this stuff. And I'm like, really? And I'm like, well, apparently no one does ARX, so either you're lying and this never happened, or I doxed them and everyone just forgot about it, because no one has ever said I've doxed anyone. I mean, maybe the Anti-RICHTERS and Hadrian did, because I made that up without any evidence when I was on Hadrian's account, but that doesn't count because that's obviously me. But anyways, so he tried saying to me recently that, you know, I can do this because you doxed people back in the day. It's like, no, ARX, I didn't dox people. When people tried to actually kill me IRL, what I would do is I would track their IP, because I'm in cybersecurity, so I did through I legally tracked their IP. I would send it to the police, and the police would go to their door, and they would get their electronics, and once they verify that they're the person I said they were, by linking up the screenshots in the chat logs, then they would arrest them, and they would send them to juvie or jail or a mental hospital in the case of Marcus Rockwell, right? So, you know, that's what I would do. I did not use any of their information and go out and say, hey, this is Marcus Rockwell's full name, full address, full information, blah, blah, blah. I would say, okay, guys, Marcus Rockwell is now in a mental hospital because of what he did to me or what he did to someone else. And, yeah, that's what I would do. Okay, I wouldn't say his full name, which I know his docs, but I haven't said anything. I call him by his username, like, and I don't know. I mean, I could go on about this for hours and hours and hours. TLDR is ARX has become a total scumbag and has utilized DDoSing and doxing and swatting and stuff against his enemies. Not against me yet. We haven't got to that part yet. We're about to. But right now, he's using it against all of his enemies. And he's doing this stuff, and the Richterians do not care. The Richterians are like, oh, this is normal, this is fine, this is okay. In fact, the Richterians are helping ARX get IPs. I was in a group call with the Monkey Crew and Lois was in it, and people were asking Lois why he was tracking IPs and trying to get information on all Monkey Crew. His exact words were, I'm just following orders. that was his exact words. Yeah. His exact words were, "I am just following orders to everyone." And I mean, we were just laughing because it was like the Nuremberg trials. You know what I mean? It was like Nuremberg when he was saying this shit about following orders, and he was just listening. And weirdly enough, a day after this happened, he retired. He said, "I'm going away from everything. I'm getting out of here." Now, there are rumors that he was threatened that said that if he didn't, like, I don't know, that if he didn't do something, he would, like, get DDoSed or whatever. I don't really believe that. Some people that are more into it, that are more schizo about ARX, will say that, but I think that's a little far-fetched. I don't think they threatened Aloys to do anything, but I do believe that Aloys and the console definitely have a hand in a lot of this. Even if the console is not actively collecting information, collecting documents, collecting doxes and IPs on people, the console is, at the very least, they know about it, they are tolerating it, and they do not give a flying shit. And none of them can say they don't know, because I've DM'd every single one of them about this over the course of the past few months. And all of them have said that they are going to do something. Well, the ones except like Dex and the ARXILLIUM'S, obviously. Okay. Most of them have said they're going to do something about it, and have not. Most of them have said that they're going to, talk to ARX. They're going to, like, have a riot or have a big, make a big fuss about it. And they have not. They have not done anything about any of this behavior. They have not resigned. They have not retired. They have not made announcements. They have not exposed it. They have remained in their place, and they have sat there like the power-hungry opportunists they are, and said, "Oh, ARX, this guy is DDoSing this and doing this. Can you tell him to stop?" And ARX is like, "Oh, yeah, I'll tell him to stop," and then it's done. ARX probably doesn't even DM them. I mean, maybe he does. Maybe he calls them a retard and says, "Hey, don't threaten Alexander. If you threaten him, he will use it against us and say that we're trying to DDoS people, and he's gonna, like, don't tell them this." That's probably what he did. And then they logged off, and then the guy kept doing it anyway, because they have no sense of order. They have no sense of control. These people that DDoS, these people that do these botnets and do these operations, these are not like organizations. They're like a bunch of criminals that are let loose. They don't have a leash. And if the owner, who does put a leash on them, tries to use that against them, they will turn on their owners. Which is why ARX and the console have not done anything like restrict them or demote them or ban them or kick them. Because if they do, they are afraid that they're going to set this guy loose, and he's going to turn on them and start DDoSing them and start going against them. So that was the state of the dynasty at least 2 or 3 months ago. And it has not gotten any better. In fact, it's gotten worse. Now what is going on is basically eventually they unblacklisted Germania and they let people in. And I eventually just said to ARX, "Hey, I'm going to leave the dynasty soon. I'm going to leave the dynasty soon. My role as an advisor is over. My role as a helper is over. I was here to help you guys out, and clearly you guys don't want me here. You guys are talking shit. You guys are going behind my back. You're interrogating people. You're causing all this ruckus about me. And welcome back. My sense of the whole purpose of me being here is no longer, there's no point to it. So I'm leaving soon." And I told him this at least a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, something like that. And I mean, things have calmed down for a while. Eventually what happens is Greater Richteria is formed by Aussie, because as this all has happened, more and more people have defected from ARX. More and more people have left ARX, more and more people are leaving and forming their own splinter groups. So you've got the Richterists, you've got the Communists, you've got the Xanderists under Aussie and Bug. By the way, Aussie and Bug hate each other, so you've got like another like civil war going on between Aussie and Bug, yet they're both, Xanderists. Yada yada yada. Eventually I talked to OSWALD. Because Oswald talks to ARXILLIUM, and he would know what is going on. And at this point, I'm like confused why Arx has totally turned his back on me and totally betrayed me and totally went against me. This is what Oswald tells me. So, I talked to Oswald, and Oswald says that the reason ARXILLIUM is doing what he is doing, TLDR, is because he's paranoid, but more specifically, is that Arx wants his own legacy. Arx doesn't care about my legacy, he doesn't care about anyone's legacy, he cares about only himself. And ARXILLIUM thinks that if he joins, like, Germania or GRC, for instance, and just goes along with what Coyote says and just takes my advice, he's afraid that the legacy that I have will forever be around, in the sense that he will never have a legacy. And as a matter of fact, ARXILLIUM said in the call with Oswald that he cares, he respects my legacy and wants to keep me around, but he wants to replace me. He wants to overdo me. He wants to basically have a legacy greater than my legacy. He wants to have a legacy that will replace mine and place him as the new figurehead of Richterism, the savior of Richterism, and I'll just be like the founder. Like, oh yeah, he's like the, he's the grandfather, but I'm the guy that actually did all the work and, did what I did. Which is bullshit. Ethan was the one that restored the dynasty. ARXILLIUM is the one that took the dynasty from him and then, carried on the dynasty at the end of the day. So, not only is all of this just pure ego, but it's also a lie. It's a great big lie, because the dynasty has not changed in the past year. It has remained almost exactly the same. The only difference being that it has a bunch of groups that it's in, and back then they were in one group. And I mean, back then it was more like Richard was just totalitarian, but I mean, you get the point now. ARXILLIUM is like running like it's North Korea. ARXILLIUM is saying if you're friends with the Aussie crew, if you're friends with the Xanders, if you're friends with anyone that is anti-ARX, you'll be banned, you'll be blacklisted, you'll be exiled, you'll be DDOSed. Yes, you heard me. You will be DDOSed if you are friends with Aussie and his crew. Yeah, that's what they were saying. So, I talked to Oswald some more about this, and Oswald's like, yeah, he's like, ARXILLIUM does not care about you. His plan all along, ever since the beginning of GRC at least, was just to take power. He is replacing my loyalists, anyone that has any sympathy towards me, he is replacing with Illiums. He is replacing with people that he knows IRL, and the people that he knows in these new groups that he's joining, with his own people. He is slowly replacing the doctrine. He is replacing statues. He's replacing descriptions. He's replacing everything, excuse me, with himself. And anyone that disagrees will basically have their entire career ruined on Roblox or any internet people that have the internet, they will not have internet. That is basically the threat. You will not have internet. You will not have reputation. You will not have anything. You will be destroyed utterly and completely. And then came along WARRICHTERIAN. To make matters even worse, then came along WARRICHTERIAN. So as you know, well, you don't know this actually. So ARX reaches out to Logan and a few other people. He didn't reach out to me because he knew he'd say no. He reached out and says, hey, can you disavow the Monkey Crew and Greater Richteria and all these other groups that don't like me? And they say no because, like, they have nothing to do with him, and they're neutral and don't care, blah blah blah. But the reason ARX didn't reach out to me is because they've already disavowed me. And this is what I said to ARX. I said this to one of his representatives. Someone reached out to me and asked me why I wouldn't disavow them. It might have been war, but I talked to them and I said, listen, in the privacy of the inner and outer core in the console, ARX has disavowed me. ARX has said, we're not doing this Alexander style, we're doing this my style. And we're going to throw Alexander out, and we're just going to do everything my way. I said, why would I disavow Aussie and Bug and all these groups that are splitting away from ARX? Why would I not give them free advice? Why would I disavow these groups when ARX has done nothing to accept my advice? He has done nothing to take me in, to defend me, to get rid of those who don't, why would I support ARX in this case from my humble Discord account over the others? When they have done nothing but go against me, disrespect me, and shit on me, and shit on my friends and threaten to DDoS people and do nothing about it when I've told them not to be toxic and not to go down this route. And they had no response. Literally, they had no response because I was right. Okay, that's why. So word gets out that I said this, and the Richterian dynasty. And eventually, Richterian reaches out to Felix. And this is where the screenshots will come in, because this is, like, very incriminating shit. He comes in and says, I'll make you a deal. And he's like, I'm a Richterian, I'm the owner of the largest Star Wars genre. And this Richterian guy is a Cadden. He's a, I don't know if he's a former Cadden, but he's associated with the Caddens. And he goes in there, and he apparently owns these big groups. The thing about these groups, Star Wars genre, the British Army, these big groups, if you look at their member count, they're all a bunch of bots. These are not real members. These are not real groups. They are botted groups meant to inflate the activity to make it look like that they are active supergroups. And this is ARX's way of fighting. ARX is going to go around and say, hey, I'm not this, lazy shit show leader. I can make a group. Look, I have British Army. I have Star Wars genre. I have Galactic Empire. They have 10,000 members. This is proof that I am better than these people. And then you look at the game and it's like, oh, 10 people, 5 people, less than 20 people, 0 people. Like, look at Richteria. They had like 25 people at their rally. They had 20 on today, 20 on yesterday. And I mean, they're being DDoSed, by the way. They're being DDoSed, right? So this is ARX's way of trying to look powerful. Because ARX doesn't know how to actually make an original group with the original concept, the original ideas, and have it launched with Robux and resources, and then run it like I did. He does not know how to do anything. His entire concept of running anything is a concept of ego and pride, which he admittedly flexes on people. I have a big ego, and I am proud of it. Well, you know what God says? God says, pride go before the fall. And God says, if you are not with him, if they are not with us, then who can be against us? Something like that. So, that's what I have to say to ARX and his pride and his ego and all of this, flexing on everyone else because, while he has himself, he has his ARXILLIUM'S on his side, and while I have nothing because I'm just a retired old man, whatever, I have God on my side because Christ, not man, is king and will always be king. So anyways, he says all this shit, this Richterian guy, and he says, before we move on, if you decide to leak any messages, it will end up very terribly. I really listen to my betrayable offer. And he's like, do like cash for Robux. And he basically just says that he's going to offer $100, and if he destroys the Greater Richteria, he's going to be given Richterian console on the true Richterian dynasty. And he's like, we have spots for you for the TK British Army, and the Star Wars genre, and the Galactic Empire, and blah, 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 blah. And basically, ARX also organized this. He sent a screenshot where it's like, ARX is like, I'm going to nuke their Discord, I can't get admin. But Felix says that ARX doesn't know about this deal because why would ARX offer $100 and the Richterian console? I mean, it's an obvious scam, and ARX isn't really that much of a scammer. So he goes to ARX and says, hey, ARX, your Richterian guy is offering me this much money in Richterian console. Is this true? ARX goes to Richterian and says, we think he's going to exile him. What does ARX do? Oh, he's just up in hey, you can't be doing that. You can't be saying you're going to spend $100 in Richterian console. You can't be doing that. And Richterian literally went behind ARX's back, by the way. Literally backstabbed ARX to get this guy to betray us, or betray Aussie and Greater Richteria to do this. And so this is what he says. Morris says, you told Zeph, might as well say bye to, he doesn't use grammar, he says say bye all of your IP addresses, which is basically, what proper grammar would mean, basically say goodbye to your internet. Not just to his internet, but to everyone in Greater Richteria's internet. This is not a threat on DDoSing the game. It's not a threat on DDoSing anything on Roblox. He is now threatening to DDoS an actual IP address that he admitted the Richterian console actually has documents on all the Monkey Crew where they have their IP addresses. They have actual documents. They have flexed it. Aloysius has admitted it, or Richterian has admitted it, ARXILLIUM has hinted at it. He hasn't said it on anything recorded. He hasn't said it out there yet. But he's hinted at it that they have documents on everyone. And if they wanted to, they could easily destroy, their IP addresses. Later on, Richterian also eventually involves me. So for the first time, they eventually mention my name, and he says this. If you decline my generous proposal, all of your friends, including, and they refer to me as like the puppy master, the puppy that I puppied the Great Richteria, that I am, again, this is Paranoia speaking, that I am like on an alt behind Great Richterian, this is an operation to like replace him with Aussie, and I'm out to get him, and I'm out to do this, and it's like, no. I haven't even developed or done anything with Great Richterian. I planned on it, I planned on helping them with uniforms and the map and stuff, but they said they got it. By the way, their new map, I had nothing to do with that. I have nothing to do with anything to do with that development. I asked them if they needed help, but they said no. So their new map, which I know is probably not original, I had nothing to do with that, and I neither avow nor disavow the Greater Richteria. I'll just say that right now. Not yet, because I mean, I'm a retired man, for God's sakes. But so he says, Alexander Lee DDOS to shreds. The entire Richterian console has all of their IPs and personal information. I will repeat that. The entire Richterian console has all of their IPs and personal information. When I had asked the console if this was true, they did not deny this. They did not say he was lying. They did not say it was untrue. They did not say that this was incorrect. They said they will take care of it. They said, don't worry, we'll take care of it. And since then, I have no idea what the hell that even means. Does that mean he's getting banned? Well, obviously not, because guess who got banned 3 hours after this happened? So I go into the Richterian Dynasty after I DM the console, and I'm like, hey, this War Richterian guy is a moron. You know, the fact he has to get audacity to threaten me of all people, that he's going to track my IP and do all this shit. This is incredible. This is hysterical. This guy is going to do all this shit to me? Like, okay, bring it on. He comes in, and he's like threatening to like SWAT and dox me and destroy me and kill me and like all this other shit. By the way, as this is going on, he's deleting what he's saying. But if you ask him like right now if what all this is true, he will say it happened. But he's deleting all this as it's going on. He's going through. He's, you know, trying to act all like skeptical about it. He's going on making these large scale threats against me, and in the public server. So everyone is going back. At least like 10 people were going off on him, saying he's a moron. They're DMing ARX, they're DMing the console, saying this guy is a lunatic. He's an anti-Richter. He's a freaking, you know, he's literally a dark Richterist. Get rid of this guy. What does ARX say? ARX says, let me see if I can find it. ARX says, so, with a question mark. So? What do you mean? This is a business? So? It's like, wow. Like, really? I'm like your 6-year friend, and you're going to let this guy threaten to kill me? And he's literally sending out people to call my dad, which actually happened. Someone called my dad, and my dad asked, because he knows all about this shit. I had to tell him everything a long time ago. And he's like, are these the anti-Richter people? And I'm like, I'll check with James. And I asked you, I said, do you know anyone that's doing this? And you're like, no. I asked all the other people, like all the people that hate me were like, no. We're like, yeah, we've moved on. We don't care about you anymore. Like, I mean, we don't like you, but like we don't even know where you live. I'm like, yeah, exactly. So I ask around, and I'm not gonna expose my sources because the person's like pretty much being threatened to be killed if he leaks this. But apparently it was Richterian. Apparently Richterian is going out of his way to dispatch people to threaten my people that I know IRL to give information about me so that he can like SWAT and dox and like destroy me. Which is like for what? And so I asked Richterian why he's doing this, and his exact words were, oh, you're friends with Aussie and Greater Richteria. You're in their Discord, and like, you know, you're their puppy master. And I'm like, what do you mean is a puppy master? And it's like, what the frick does that even mean? You know, I looked it up. There's no actual term for it. It's just making shit up. Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, well, listen here, pal. I said, I'm in cybersecurity. All it takes is for me to get your IP, and you're off to jail if they can prove that all of this is real. And I'm like, with what you're saying that you can do, if you have botnets and you've done this before on 100 occasions, I mean, you're facing prison time. And he's like, well, you know, I'll just arrest you. This is the exact words. I'm a police officer. You can't arrest me. And I mean, they can be arrested, by the way. And this guy's probably like 14, 15 years old, and he's doing this shit. He's saying he's a narcotics officer. And I'm like, oh, you're a narcotics officer. And it's like, oh yeah, I deal drugs all the time. And it's like, this guy's retarded. Like, he doesn't even know what he's talking about. Like, he's a narcotics officer. He deals with drugs, and he's a police officer. Like, that's two different things, by the way. But he's going on and on and on, saying he's going to arrest me if I call the cops on him. And I mean, at this point, it's funny. Like, I mean, I guess he can like call like people that know IRL and say like, hey, I'm going to like threaten you all day long and like find your address and threaten you until you give me Alec's IRL address. But at the end of the day, he's a stupid, retarded 15-year-old kid who wants attention, who wants to but at the end of the day, he does have botnets. He can DDoS games. He can. He does. Anyone has the capability to SWAT people. Anyone can pick up the phone and SWAT someone. And if this person is threatening to kill and SWAT people in the name of Richterism, then this is a hazard. This is a huge red flag. I mean, if this was 2 years ago, and there was actual evidence of this, like not, made up bullshit stories, Alec is a doxer, he killed a guy when he was 5 years old. This is an actual, unironic, actual evidence situation where there's people threatening people. And this is the Richterian dynasty. This was 2 years ago. Do you know how much flack I would get? Yeah. Do you know, like, I would probably be hated worse than Albert Hilarion if this was 2 years ago and someone had this on me. So, I mean, I told them this. I said, hey, ARX, I told the console, I said, listen, I have 3 options. I can either go to ARX, and you guys can deal with it yourselves and get rid of this guy and fix this shit. I can go to James. I can go to any other mainstream recorder. Give them my story, and they can expose this and what you guys are doing. Or I can also go to the police, give them all the evidence, give them the IPs of those who have been organizing this, give them all the information they need, and have them go confiscate their computers, confiscate their electronics, get evidence that they have been doing this, they'll find it without a doubt, and then get them in court, get them in juvie, whatever, for a number of weeks or months for these types of activities. I mean, those are your 3 options. And they said they deal with it, and they didn't. And if they did, it's not satisfying enough. I told them to take care of it, and I gave him a slap on the wrist. He continues to do this. After the slap on the wrist, he continues to threaten, he continues to dox, he continues to DDoS and lie, and I mean, he's committed so many crimes, he could probably go to actual prison as a minor. He impersonated a police officer, he impersonated arresting me, he threatened all these things, which some of it he didn't even delete. Some of the shit, like the narcotic officer thing, that's still there. A lot of the stuff is still there and hasn't been deleted. Some of the stuff you can ask, he'll flex it. He'll literally say, yeah, I threaten to DDoS and kill and SWAT and murder and to do evil. And whatever else. And he won't even deny it. He won't even deny it. Maybe after this gets released he will, because then he'll realize, like, shit, like, my life is in danger, and if I don't deny it, I'll probably go to jail. But, yeah, right now, yeah, basically, oh, and after I told the console, they banned me. They didn't. Not only did they say they're like, oh, okay, well, this what happened was because I have insiders. They said that the console freaked out, went in the inner circle and said, "Do we ban WARRICHTERIAN?" They're like, "No, we need to ban Alexander. He's the one that's spreading these rumors and he's spreading this stuff, and we can have people know that we're DDoSing people, doing all this great harm. Alexander, he's gonna record this and blah blah, expose us." It's like, nibbas. If they didn't ban me, maybe I wouldn't have to go to, like, I don't know, James's or something to, like, talk about this shit. It's like, they're so dumb. I wouldn't have to go out of my way to go out and expose them for this if they didn't ban me, if they worked with me on this. They're not working with me. Like, they're so dumb. Listen to me and take care, like, I don't know, ban them from your servers, and maybe I won't do that. Maybe I won't go out and have to tell everyone that you guys are now a DDoSing, doxing, piece of shit dynasty now that swore to become what you swore to destroy. Like, good lord. Yeah, it has fallen to degeneracy and subversive tactics, and I mean, literally look at these other chat logs I took screenshots, or what this guy took screenshots of. What's up, keys? They thought he was my alt, by the way. He's not my alt. But this guy joined, and like, oh, you're Alexander. You're trying to, like, confront us about us being DDoSers and shit. And they tried to, like, track his IP, and they were, like, posting his supposed IP in the server, and, like, And the consul's in the chat too. You have ARXILLIUM. He's like, "Oh, I wouldn't do anything to guess who you are or what you're gonna do," and they're like laughing at him. And I DM Nix. He's like, "Oh, why would they ban you? It turns out Dex banned you, and they made your ban hexadecimals." And it's like, brother, just freaking like, if you're a consulman, if you're listening and you're a consulman, you have no excuse. You could literally resign. You could literally retire and say, "Yeah, you guys are DDOSing. You're threatening the founder. You're being assholes. You're being toxic. I'm gonna retire." And I'm not coming back until you guys fix your shit. You can literally do that right now. Okay? And if they're threatening to do anything to you, IRL, like DDoS you, call the police. Literally call the authorities, because you have no excuse. There is literally zero excuses to do anything about this. Including you, ARX. Including you. If you're being threatened, you could have any one of you guys could have came to me. I literally work in cybersecurity. I literally know how to deal with this stuff on the daily. And no one has an excuse not to come to me and deal with this appropriately. So I'm just putting it out there right now. If anyone comes out there and cries and says, "Oh, well, I had no choice. I had no choice," no, bullshit, bullshit. You're a pussy. You are a pussy. Okay, you have no balls. You have zero testosterone energy, and you will do nothing because you are a pussy and love your rank. You are a simp for your rank. And if you say and do anything about any of this shit, you will get exiled. You will get demoted. You will be silenced. That is why people aren't doing shit about it. I rest my case. So, yeah, that is the state of Richterism, for those who are curious. And for those who are going to say shit like, "Oh, Richterism has fallen. It is no longer Richterism." There are still people, like, look at the Vibe Tribe. We have more members than the Dynasty itself. I don't think people can say that the ideology or the original ideas has fallen. The concept of Richterism literally says that as long as one person believes in the ideology, it will live on. And there are numerous splinters that still, see me as, the hardcore leader or founder. ARXILLIUM'S Richterians is honestly just one portion. But, yeah, for the most part, the original successor, the original leadership, the original dynasty, all the original concepts and original foundations have turned against what was Richterism. And all the new gens, all the other organizations that splintered are literally what remains of that foundation. So, that's my take on it. But for the most part, yeah. We literally, someone needs to go in there and, They need to be shut down. They need to be dealt with. They need to be taken care of, because this is ridiculous. People shouldn't have to deal with threats like this. I shouldn't have IRL people dealing with this because of... And this isn't even me. If I was still on the platform, I'd take responsibility. But, they're doing this because I'm friends with people. I guess you could say I should take responsibility for the fact that they know me or whatever, but, the fact they're doing this over, people I'm friends with, what am I supposed to do? I can retire from a platform and then say, "Oh, my bad, I've retired. They should stop, attacking me because I'm a legal leader." But, now it's I'm friends with someone over the internet. You know what I mean? It's just so dumb and petty and childish. And the fact that someone who's 20 years old that leads this dynasty has responsibility to deal with this and take care of it appropriately and maturely, and has chosen not to for the sake of ego and pride and power and everything else. It is embarrassing. It is so embarrassing for him. I feel so bad. I feel secondhand embarrassment because of the fact that he just can't just put his foot down. At this point, he's doing it to look badass and strong, "Oh yeah, nothing can stop me from exiling WRAPUP." No, you look like a retard. You look like a pussy. This guy's doing the worst things possible on Roblox, and you're letting it happen. You don't look strong. You look like a complete pussy for letting it happen. Do something about it. Ban him. Kick him. Replace the console for not doing anything either. Holy shit. Tired of talking about this, but I have to. They have to be stopped. About ARX? Well, what I have to say about all of this is that the Richterian dynasty has become what they have sworn to destroy. At the end of the day, that is what it is. And many will say they predicted this. Many will say this was going to happen. But at the end of the day, everyone can agree that the Dynasty was the most loyal, active, and diehard thing on Roblox. I mean, it was called a cult for a reason. You can't really say that with many other groups. Maybe with the Hilarians you can, maybe with Lewis you can, but not to the degree the Richterians were. So, the fact that the most loyal Dynasty has done this is surprising, but unexpected. I'm not shocked, because it's ARX, but yeah. Yeah, well. Mm, it's like NSEG. ARXILLIUM is like, I don't know, Hermann Goring or something, and he's like, got half the army on the other side of Germany fighting against, I don't know, who even is the opposition these days? Is there even an enemy that, like, opposes the Richters? There's not even, like, an... Yeah, okay, well, I guess the Allies, the Zionists, they're fighting against the Zionists. And ARG sends me a telegram, Dear Alexander, if you do not respond to this, I will assume you are dead or banned from the Discord server, and I will resume all responsibility as the new Führer of the Third Reich. And I'm sitting there with, like, Bug as, like, Goebbels and like, everyone else, and I'm like, Vlad! The traitor! He is a traitor! But, in all seriousness, yeah, man. I thought that the Solum thing, when they, like, destroyed everything, I thought that was NSEG. I thought that was, like, our NSEG. But they came back up. It was like the Fourth Reich. They just rose back up and took back, and it was epic and based and red-pilled and Chad and, like, the most alpha thing ever. And then Arx just has to screw it all up. He has to just, like, become the Zionist. He has to become the frickin' one world order bullshit and go with the whole, go with the crowd. He has to go with the crowd, go with, the most, he has to cuck out on optics and, well, DDOSIng's not even optical, but you get what I mean. He has to cuck out. And the fact that he plays this card of being this, chill, relaxed individual, like, look at these screenshots and tell me this is a chill, relaxed, not toxic community full of gaming and fun and friends. Like, yeah, man. Yeah, man. Like, botnets and DDoSing and swatting and threatening people's IRL parents over, yeah, this is the most chill environment I've ever been in. Like, give me a freaking break, dude. This is not a chill, relaxed environment full of gaming and making friends and fun. This is literally hell. This is literally hell. Get the frick out of here. Yeah, me too. Yeah, at this point, I prefer anyone over what there is now. I prefer anyone over what we have now. I prefer Bernie Sanders over what we have now. Both IRL and like, I prefer a communist over what is going on now. Literally, because yeah, it's nothing but cash grabs and dead cash grabs anyway. Not even good cash grabs. Mhm. Right. Um, yeah. I mean, I could go on for hours if I wanted to. I'm kind of drained, but I just had to get that out there. I've been bottling this energy up for months, dude. I've felt this way since late GRC. Ever since ARX just kind of bailed, and we were in that VC just talking about it, and like he just kind of just bailed out and everything. I was like, you know, But I kept my mouth shut for months because I wanted to succeed. I wanted to see him change and eventually say, you know, you're right, Alexander, you're right. I had an ego, I had pride, and I should have listened, and I should have done it this way. And I would have said, yeah. And I would have spent weeks fixing it, and then I would have left peacefully. And happily ever after, would have lived. But that isn't going to happen because he's too far gone. He's too far gone, and nothing will wake him up. And it's gotten to the point where it is affecting my real life. I would wait more, but if it wasn't for the IRL shit, I would have waited longer. I would have waited months before deciding this. But it's gotten to the point where my real life is at stake. Not at stake, but like, what if they do actually find where I am at currently? And I mean, I'll move in a month. I'm traveling around for politics and business and other shit, but, you know, hypothetically, what if people do find my docs? What will they do? What if they find my IP? You know what I mean? Yeah. What they will do is, because I mean, I am out here with friends, I'm inviting people over, I'm out here doing stuff, and the last thing I want is I'm like, you know, I think of it like this. I imagine I'm like home or whatever, and like we're like, I don't know, maybe we're planning on like doing door knocking, we're just taking a break, you know, we're in the pool, we're hanging out, whatever. I'm doing with whatever friends, and all of a sudden, you know, SWAT team moves in, boom, 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 and I mean these are all like very concerted. We're all like armed and stuff, like, you know, it's like, what if they think that we're going, like, I don't know. I know that's kind of like very kind of fetched because um I know the police in the area, and I've talked to them, and I don't think they would go on guns blazing, but um, you have to look at it that way. You have to take this seriously. People that tell me like this is, I'm not even on the platform. People can't even use the Roblox excuse. I'm not even on the platform. This is a Discord. This is an internet related thing, and though they are using people that I know from Roblox as the excuse for it, it's like, I'm in a Discord server, dude. I'm in a Discord server, and they play games. They play chill out. You know, I go in there. We talk shit. We hang out. Like, what the frick? I'm not allowed to do that. Is me going in there and hanging out with people that, like, nope, nope. If you talk to this guy, you will die. You will die, dude. Okay, all right, kill me. Because if I die because I'm friends with someone, then that would be the greatest news in history. Alexander, former Lego leader, delegate of, you know, insert docs here. Uh, what else I'm known for dies because 14-year-old and cop impersonator didn't like he was friends with a bunch of autistic retards. Like, that would be the news headlines. That would be the news headlines. That's how stupid this is. I know, right? Tucker. Tucker will be like, you. He'll be like the greatest America First patriot. I'll be like the Horst Wetzel of America First, you know. Yeah, killed by Lego reactionaries who had no lives and LARPed as Robloxians. Our great leader, Alexander, was our patriot. He would have been a great leader in AF. Yeah. I know. I'm about ready to kill myself now after having to talk about this. Ah, frick. Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I want to thank those who have stuck through it all. Those who are fighting the good fight against these oppressors, these doxers, DDOSers, SWATers, these, yeah, demonic entities, these demonic satanic influences. You are fighting the good fight, my friends. You are fighting against hell. You are fighting against the great Satan. You are fighting against the Antichrist, and you are fighting a great demon, a great devil, and keep up the good fight. You know, You are literally fighting for my life right now, so every person counts. But for until then, I don't know. Does that make me an anti-Richter now? Does that make me an official upholder of the anti-Richters? And at this, I guess I'm forced to. I guess I'm forced to be like. I guess the anti-Richters are now the good guys. If you guys aren't doxing and DDOSing, if you're like actually good people, then yeah, at this point, yeah. So Christ is king. If I can say Christ is king and people agree with that, then okay, yeah. I guess I'm an anti-Richter now. But I don't know. I don't know, man. Yeah, man. I know, right? How do you think Guy feel? Yeah, yeah. The fact that I don't even have to be on the platform when I'm causing trouble like this. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Well, I did write this would happen, but I also wrote that it would be like a great legacy left behind, that people would rise up and they would build something 10 times greater than I did, and they would preserve everything, and they would carry my name under a new leader, and that has yet to happen. And I don't know. Yeah, I was thinking that for a system that could have worked, I feel like I could have how in North Korea they have the eternal president and he still rules over the country even though he's dead. I should have done that. I should have my main account would have been at the top. Well, no, we have the holder account and the council would have access to that. Then you'd have my main, the eternal founder. Then you'd have the elected ruler or the person that was a successor, and then you'd have the council. And then the council would help the ruler make decisions and stuff, but all the doctrines would be literally inchangeable. If the ruler decided to do anything that changed it, he'd be exiled. He'd be yeah, you're exiled. And I don't know if I'd have to log on to do that or if they could just do it themselves, but something like that would have worked way better. I really hoped that I could just elect the next successor and they'd be loyal and they would carry everything on and not have to do this shit. They wouldn't have to go down this route. I really thought that they were going to go down a route that was Christian and honorable and morally sound, but they have done the complete and total opposite. And yeah, 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 exactly. So, I remember back on GRC, I was watching Bug confront ARX, and one of the things Bug said is that Bug called ARX a liar and named a few things and said, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, it's unchristian of you, or something like that. And I don't think he said it was unchristian of you, he just said that it was I don't know, immoral of him. And ARX said that morals are irrelevant. ARX said that nothing, that leading us nothing with morals. It's about productivity. It's about, it's about just being a psychopath and just doing what is best for you. And it's every man for himself and Darwinist theory. And it's yeah, but that's what every Zionist CEO, leader and politician says too, who are total scumbags, who are satanic and do rituals and shit. They say the same exact shit. Are you one of them? Or are you a good Christian moralist who cares about the people and cares about doing the right thing and not being a total scumbag for the sake of your own survival? Also, if that theory was true, why is he doing worse than I did? So if being an asshole who's immoral and a psychopath maniac is the way to lead your people to greatness and do great things, then why are you not already where you're supposed to be? Why is it a year from now you're still in the same exact place you've been in? So, food for thought, but I mean, if that's his take on morals and take on being a good Christian and having a good Christian system, well, your theory has failed and has yet to succeed. And even if it does succeed, it's not Christian. Because at the end of the day, if you are a Christian, which he is, as lukewarm as he is as a Christian, he's a Christian. It says that at the end of the day, God will come back, rise for the second time, destroy the world, destroy the Antichrist and the devil, every demonic entity, build a new world, and we will live there forever. God will always win in the end. So even if you have your little empire of immoralists and bad doings, what are you to gain the world if you are to lose your soul for eternity? So, if that's his thought process, you can have the world, ARX, but you only have the world until you die. And after you've died, and you've lost the world in your riches and your immoral lies and other, things, if you don't have God and his way before everything, if you have no faith in the Lord and his way, well, I rest my case. Let me say no more, because I am not the one to judge, but rather God is the one to judge those, the living and the dead, who believe and do not believe. So, I leave it to him, and him only, as I have done since the beginning. When the Psalms destroyed everything, I told everyone I leave everything to God, because there is nothing I can do. As a matter of fact, there has been never a time where there's nothing that I can do. It is left up to God to decide the fate of everything. And look at the Psalms now. Where are they? Where have they? Because I did nothing, and the Psalms are off the platform. They have kind of died. They've moved on to Minecraft. They're still active. They're still around. Still friends with the Alex and them. But, I mean, they're not pestering the Richterians. They're not out there dominating and whatnot. Right? So, ARX is left with the same exact fate. I don't do anything. I leave all my problems to God, because God frees the chains of the righteousness and the justice, for God does the justice, not us. Well, I mean, yeah. If he's not going to uphold Christian values, then yeah, hold on. I'm back. I'm eating a Kit Kat because I'm hungry right now, but, I mean, like I said, it's for God to judge, not me, but he's been, I mean, those were his exact words. He said that. He put productivity and he put his own selfish desires over morality. And he said the bug that people that are like that win. People like that succeed. And if that's philosophy, then he would rather DDoS, if it helps him, than not DDoS and be seen as honorable and moral. That's his philosophy. If it wasn't, he wouldn't be DDoSing people. Because DDoSing is obviously dishonorable, immoral. It is a toxic form of destruction. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, look, if he repents and he's a Christian and he believes in God, and he trusts his Savior, and he believes, like, when I say believes in Christ, I mean believes in him, like actually follows the faith and whatnot, then he's fine. If he does that, okay, he's saved. Case closed. But he hasn't acted like that. He's acted very much the opposite, and that's why I think the way I do. But I'm not going to go on about it. That's, like I said, it's between him and God. It's not between me and him. It's between him and God. And regardless if he's Christian or not, by the way, his lack of Christian morality being enforced is going to be his own destruction. That will probably happen. Because Alex is a hardcore Catholic. Now, he's a very degenerative Catholic, but regardless if he's a Catholic, he's a Christian, he's safe, but his empire toppled, and he also had the same philosophy. His philosophy was being immoral and having immoral means to get what he wants and being toxic and stuff. And so, again, I rest my case. But Lewis, same thing. But that's just how I see it. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, you got this, Arx. But yeah, I know they're gonna freak out. They're gonna look at this and be like, they're calling us unchristian. And they're gonna look at it like I'm calling them literally satanic. I'm not saying they're literally satanic either. I'm not saying they're doing rituals, but what they're doing and their beliefs and their morals are very satanic. Like the whole philosophy of being toxic to get your means, and I don't know. You get what I mean. That is unchristian. It's not Christian. It's unchristian. There is no in between. It's either you're Christian or you're unchristian, and to do that is unchristian. Doesn't make you a Satanist. Doesn't make you an atheist. It makes you an unchristian Christian. Simple as that. But yeah. Mm. Probably an hour and a half. So yeah. No, no. Yeah, I just leave it at that. Let's just leave it at that.